Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Better to be safe than sorry. Words of a Negril businessman and hotelier in response to the state of emergency. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 2nd December 2022. Details when we return. Welcome back. The Negril Chamber of Commerce, one of the signatories on a letter of appeal from the private sector to the opposition, say they are disappointed with the opposition for not supporting the state of emergency's extension. More in this CVM Live report.
Better to be safe than sorry. The state of emergency protocols that have been in place across sections of the island have been receiving mixed reactions from the public, with concerns mounting for its impact on businesses and now tourism. However, prominent hotelier and president of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Richard Wallace, says he believes people feel more comfortable with the police's presence.
There are inconveniences, yes, and people complain about that, the long lines at the checkpoints and so the delays that may result in missed flights and so forth. But once we can control those things, at the end of the day, people prefer to feel safe.
Noting it is not uncommon to see military personnel patrolling airports and tourist hotspots. He says if Negril were to become a municipality or acquire township status, it would allow for there to be more control in areas of security and maintenance.
If we are able to acquire some kind of township status, then we would be able to put some things in place, including security measures and controls that will organize the society a little bit better, so that we can have a more peaceful and prosperous resort area.
In light of the parish expecting an additional 4,000 new rooms in the coming years, Wallace says the problems currently plaguing the space will only intensify. He is appealing to the government to be proactive and ensure the area's water and sewage systems are upgraded.
We want to repeat our appeal for the bypass road for Negril, for Lucy and for Hopewell, because with 4,000 additional new rooms and more investment and with all this additional traffic, it is already a nightmare and we need it to be fixed. Because we have been discussing a highway from Negril to Montego Bay, and we are appealing to the government to fast track this, especially in light of the fact that we are having 4,000 new rooms coming in the near future.
Nasika Aliman reporting for CVM Live.
Economic growth in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is set to be impacted by global challenges, including inflationary pressures. These were among the matters raised during the 103rd meeting of the Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB. ABS's Ursel Charles Jr. reports.
With just over a month to go in 2022 and with a worrying economic outlook, the Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank has met. This country's Prime Minister, the Honourable Gaston Brown, joined other heads of government for the timely session. The global financial reality took centre stage at the meeting. That reality included the International Monetary Fund's revision of the global growth forecast. It's been revised downwards and is expected to be approximately only 3.2% this year. Additionally, inflation is weighing heavily on the economic outlook. Within the sub-region, it has been noted economic activity continues to recover only tepidly. The central bank's report also notes inflation continues to rise and broaden in the Eastern Caribbean Central Union. Of concern is that while global inflationary pressures are expected to ease by the end of this year, the overall price level is expected to be substantially higher than it was pre-pandemic. On a positive note, monetary conditions in the ECCU remain accommodative. Monetary and credit conditions improved despite the weakness in the global macroeconomy during the first half this year, with growth in private sector credit. Meanwhile, the Monetary Council placed on record its appreciation for the sterling contribution of the former chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission, the ECSRC, Antigua Barbudas, His Excellency Arthur G.B. Thomas. Ambassador Thomas resigned as chairman of the ECSRC On November 21 this year, after 15 years of service, the council has commenced the process to appoint a new chairman of the council. For ABS News, I'm Ursil Charles Jr.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over the port of Spain, where flood victims have suffered millions of dollars in losses, as estimated by Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin. During a press conference on Wednesday, MP Amin called on the state to make haste in awarding grants to flood victims. She also called on the government to state how much money they have received from flood insurance. Details in this TV6 News item with Renessa Cutting.
The damage to residents, private homes, properties certainly runs into the millions. The damage to infrastructure as well has to be assessed. I can tell you that when a person has 4 feet of water in their home, everything is damaged.
Flood victims in Bamboo and Valsine South have lost appliances, furniture, motor vehicles, and even suffered structural damage to their properties following the most recent flooding event, which saw water up to 10 feet high in some areas. MP for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin, is calling on the relevant state agencies to come through for flood victims.
I can personally tell you that in addition to the constituent making the application, I have also submitted a list of names of persons who have been affected, their damages, and details for the citizens. No compensation has been received by anyone in St. Augustine constituency. And so I hesitate to have faith in the government that these grants will be provided. However, I trust that with the magnitude of this flooding, that there will be some change of heart to provide compensation.
MP Amin is also calling on the Ministry of Works to implement short-term flood mitigation measures, with more rain expected over the coming days and weeks.
Breaches in the water courses that resulted in this flooding was brought to the attention of the authorities months ago. In other parts of the country, for instance in the Oropouche South, the South Oropouche River Basin, again, those breaches were identified months ago. Yesterday, in the Bamboo area, where residents are still under flood, both Minister of Local Government and the Minister of Works, Faris Alwari and Ohan Sinanan, received abuses from residents. And this reflects the level of frustration that people feel. The people in Bamboo have been complaining for years about the St. Joseph River. What we have is promises that within 18 months something will be done.
And she says government cannot use a lack of money as an excuse.
Recently, we know that the government has received payouts from various insurance funds and disaster funds, and we are asking for accountability where this is concerned. Tell us how much money you have received for disaster response. Tell us what you are going to do with that money.
Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
In the meantime, former Planning Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in the People's Partnership Administration, Dr. Botarwari, says people are getting fed up with the government. He was responding to the state's handling of the flooding crisis. Nicole M. Ramani of TV6 News has more.
Dr. Botarwari tells the TV6 Morning Edition the situation is very disheartening.
I think some of the frustration may have been building up so that people are asking, well, why are you coming now when the flood is so terrible and everybody's house is full of water and we have to live upstairs and we have to take boats?
He says preventative measures should have been taken before the floods rather than after.
But if we have a lot of rain and we know that that is the new reality, then we need to adapt. We have to have mitigation strategies. We have to prepare for it. And we have to have a solution for the management of it. When the only solution you have is how to get the flood down, how to give people food, how to give them a mattress, and so on. I think people are just fed up now.
Dr. Tawari noted the local government minister's comments on giving grants to affected persons, saying Talk and action are two very different things.
Cannot be the government and not respond to people's need for relief in a time of distress. So I think that is what the government is doing. Whether it is enough, whether it is a ritual that passes, whether it will work, we don't know how much is just the announcement effect. And as you say, how the bureaucracy is going to stand in the way of delivery.
Nicole M. Romney, TV6 News.
Thousands of people have been gunned down in Haiti this year as a result of violence caused by heavily armed gangs calling the shots in the capital's poor and densely populated slum areas in complete defiance of the country's authorities and frail police force. This is according to human rights groups stationed in Haiti. Joel Vogt of HGP Regional News reports.
Defenders Plus, a prominent Haitian rights group, said at least 2,769 people have been killed in the country from January 1 to October 31, while dozens others wounded were admitted to the hospital this year. But this figure does not include a number of people who died in hospitals after being attacked and injured, the group added. Several human rights groups have called attention to an exponential increase in violence in Haiti and complained about the fact that people do not seem to bother and more about seeing dead bodies on the streets in their neighborhoods. Therefore, what should have been seen as tragic is considered normal, the rights advocate said, while noting that there have been more than 20,000 people displaced during the past months, just in the capital. Data collected showed that 863 people were killed, mostly by gunshots, from January to November 2022. Human rights observers said that more than 20,000 people have been displaced over the past few months as a result of gang violence in the area of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Police officers often desert their own headquarters, fleeing danger posed by bandits and leaving thousands in the hands of criminals, acting with complete impunity.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.